Well, welcome to another episode of the Grazing Sheep Podcast. I'm your host, Big Tom Perkins, along with Dr. Cameron Meyerly. And it's been pretty cold here the last few mornings there, Cam. Has it been cold out your way?
It has been chilly. I know one evening we got down to, I want to say it was 46, and it was absolutely heavenly. So the only thing I'm nervous about is we're supposed to swing back up to like 92, 94
Yeah.
this upcoming weekend, and it was a mean tease to get some of that nice kind of northern Midwestern air. So
Yep.
a good reprieve from the heat.
The last two mornings, it's been 42 degrees here down here in this valley. And it
Yeah,
is,
that sounds like good sheep breeding weather.
yep. I go out in the mornings with a sweatshirt on, a hat, and a pair of shorts.
Yep. Yeah, that's my
Because,
go-to. The shorts and sweatshirt is
yep.
an iconic look.
Yep, because in just a couple hours, the temp's gonna be creeping back up, and you're not gonna want to be wearing pants. So
Yeah, get them in where you can.
that's
I
right.
it is it's one of those feelings for me um that actually like elicits a joyful response. That cool weather in the mornings, like I
Yep.
know breeding season is getting close. That probably I enjoy lambing ewes out. But breeding season, for whatever reason, is probably the most exciting time of year for me because it's the potential of what could be, next year. And that's kind of existed through every breed of sheep and class of whether it was club lambs or commercial sheep, just the opportunity to kind of enact some change on those ewes. And then you get done with that, and I think part of it is the reason that feels like a mountaintop experience is after you're done breeding, you have to sit there and wait, wait for 5 months to see what you get out of it. So it's kind of this hills and valley type emotional response to managing sheep for that time of year.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the optimistic nature of all farmers. It's
Yeah.
you think of planting season, and so I would think breeding season would fall right into the same kind of thought process. If you thought, oh, this is going to end badly, you wouldn't even do it. But you always think, oh, it's gonna be a good year. Everything's gonna go well. Sheep are gonna hold body condition nice, and gonna be lots of grass. And then when you go to harvest, it's gonna be, which for us would be the lambing, I guess. And we're gonna have lots of good, healthy lambs popping around, and this is gonna be the year. It's gonna be it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of like
Yeah.
I kind of hold that to like Pittsburgh Pirate fans. They all think this will be the year. This will be the year the team will finish above 500.
Yeah, and I'm hoping your successes as a sheep producer is has been a
Way
better
better,
story,
way
better
better than the
timeline
Pittsburgh
than
Pirates. Yes.
than that MLB franchise.
Yeah. When I was heavily involved in youth groups, there was a lot of students who were very into the Pittsburgh Pirates, and I would just look at them and think, never in your lifetime have you seen a winning season.
Which
It's
is
hard.
crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. So I think a few years ago they did have one. I don't follow them closely, but so I don't know. So we're hoping this will be the World Series again, like it was in the '60s, I think, or maybe early '70s. I can't remember which now. It was a long time ago.
I
But
probably wouldn't hold your breath,
nope, I'm
but
not going to. Not going to. But we're hoping to be the World Series for our lamb crop. That's really what we're
yeah.
looking for.
Yeah.
Most definitely. So I just got back from out not being out there in Ohio, not too far from you. I met a gal that was coming to your place to buy a ram. I told her she was paying way too much money. She should ask for a discount.
Great. Yeah.
And well, I was over there at a handlers event for, I guess, for herding dogs. And so I'm over there taking, like, the reality was I took like 4 lessons, and then there was a lot of discussion, and you watched other people, doing their lessons and trying to learn from what they're doing and trying to learn. And there's a lot to this. It's amazing how much there is, and how much of it's body language, and how much of it is trying to figure out what the dog's going to do before the dog does it, and then stop the dog from doing it, and then teaching the dog that's not what you're supposed to do. And man, I tell you, I never felt so inadequate in much of anything till I got to that. I would think I could be a better brain surgeon than I could be a dog trainer.
Oh, great.
I really feel like
Great.
I know as much about brain surgery as I do about training dogs. It is my head just spins the entire time. I keep thinking, what am I wait, what? You just said that doesn't apply here? I don't understand. It's confusing. It's so confusing. One of these days it'll click. But I'm learning more from it, and I came home all excited to apply what I had learned, and it isn't working. So
Yeah, it's one of those things we've talked about it on here before. It can be, I think the training side of it can be frustrating, but once it clicks and maybe you've reverted some of that negative behavior, it's really a feeling of accomplishment. I definitely I take for granted, and I feel like it's justified because I go into it knowing that, hey, this dog, I'm letting him get away with some things, and I will say it makes it really hard. I also am coming back off of a road trip. When you're gone for 3 or 4 days, and he's got dad pulls him out of the kennel and lets him run during while he's doing chores. But um, that constant correction of doing the right thing all the time
yeah,
um, doesn't exist. And so once I'm back for a decent stretch of time, which this summer it hasn't that hasn't really occurred. But um, we can work out some of those things that are would be negative behaviors.
mhm,
Does it hurt anything? No, he's not hurting anything, but the ability to have an instrument or the tool to go out that is the border collie to go out and operate how he needs to when I tell him to,
yeah,
um, is huge. And you've got a whole different kind of concept on this because you've got a new dog, a young dog, a puppy.
yeah.
And how much of this have you taken and are trying to implement onto that young dog, or is she just still kind of getting to know you and learning what it is to be a sheepdog?
Well, yeah, she's I guess maybe 3.5 months old now. And so we haven't really introduced her to sheep or anything like that. So it's just kind of bonding. I first brought her home. I put her in a small little kind of enclosed kennel. Um, I suppose it was probably more a cat carrier than anything else, but it would hold a puppy. And brought it home, got it out, put it down. It ran under the car. And then I had to spend 20 minutes coaxing it out from underneath the car. And it was, scared to death of me. And it didn't take long for it kind of just follows me all over the place. But it's not like a full-time outside, just do whatever you want dog. It's a whole different experience. But it's definitely bonding. Haven't taught to sit, haven't taught really to do anything other than walk on a leash. So, but I'm thinking the entire time about what I'm learning in these lessons that I'm taking, you know, occasionally, and trying to apply the little bit that's sinking in, which is not a lot at this point. But I had Chase out with me, to take these lessons, so he was with me the entire time. And I was able to kennel the dog there, so I didn't have to worry about a hotel room or anything with the dog. But it is just there's so much to it and so many little intricacies that I've just never noticed before. And I'm still not sure that I'm applying them correctly. But I know I said to the guy that he said, "So have you had him out on sheep?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah." I said I work the dog almost every day, and I said, "So I've worked sheep 4 times." And he said, "No, which is it?" I said, "What do you mean, which is it?" And he he didn't understand when I was saying that I work the dog basically every day, but I've used the dog 4 times to work sheep. And what I meant was by that was that I don't need the dog to move sheep from paddock to paddock. That's no big deal. The sheep, you just call the sheep, and the sheep will just walk through. Um, but we wanted to pull blood. We wanted to get some weaning weights. We wanted to do fecal samples. We pulled 55 ewes out of the group. And so I used the dog then to work the sheep, where all the
Mm,
other, I'm using the sheep to work the dog. And uh, and so basically what I have done so far is create a bunch of bad habits um, for the dog because I'm doing so many things wrong. At the same time, you know, I was kind of thinking about it over the weekend. You know, would I sell the dog if I had the opportunity? And at this point, I'm thinking no, because I need the dog. Even
right.
even with the
Right.
dog not necessarily doing it correctly, like I'm still getting jobs done with the dog. And
Yeah.
for the first time in my sheep life, I feel like if the sheep get out, the whole flock, or just a few, whatever it is, I don't panic because chasing sheep's like herding cats, and it's suddenly now I have this dog that maybe anybody else's dog would do it in a quarter of the time, and it would look perfect and flawless, and you'd want to have a video of it. At this point, I don't really care so much about that. I'm able to get the sheep back in without it being, just this frantic, oh my God, what am I gonna do mess. I need 27 more people to make form a human circle around these sheep to move them to we want to go. you know.
Right. Yeah, and that's I was talking with somebody, the other day, and I kind of caught myself in conversation because, like, you would have thought the points that I was making, you would have thought that I had a border collie for 20 years,
Yeah.
and like I haven't had a dog for more than 12 months. So,
Yeah.
and it is something like moving forward, it would be regardless of what venture maybe we'd be pursuing, there
Mm,
would be a border collie if, as long as we were running sheep.
yeah.
And one of the things I think, when you were mentioning, well, I don't need the dog to move sheep from paddock to paddock, and I agree. When I'm moving fence and we're just letting sheep into the next allotment
Yep.
of that next paddock, it's
Yep.
not necessary. But something, I believe it was Brad Crothers. This was pre Cameron having a border collie, and that was my comment was, and I think I even used you as an example. Like, I wouldn't need a dog in that environment moving sheep to the next paddock where we're at today. Um, I think your situation, your environment, probably even less of a need to move sheep, to have a dog to move sheep from paddock to paddock
Yep.
in those grazing allotments. And at the time, they were still in Mount Vernon, and it's kind of a similar situation. Permanent fence, had gates, and was met with the comment is like, "Oh, you'll find stuff like you'll make up things for them to do."
Yeah.
And I even wonder, like, in your environment, is it worth, you start out at the opposite corner just to give that dog kind of FaceTime with the sheep and correct some of his behaviors. Start out at the opposite corner of your grazing allotment and have the dog fetch those sheep to you, hold those sheep there, go to where you're going to open up your fence, and then he can fetch them back, down to that opposite corner. Something that, like, is it necessary? Not at all. But it takes 5 minutes out of your day to give that dog an opportunity to perform in his environment, And then also gives you an opportunity as a handler to correct any of those, little mistakes that he might be making, or identify some items that you'd say, well, I'd like to see him do a better job at this. What do I need to do as a handler to correct that? So that's, for example, today we moved sheep this morning, and normally would have had to set up some polywire from one grazing allotment to the next, because I actually skipped an area that we had hit pretty hard previously. And instead, I just dropped the fence and ran them across this area we were going to try to avoid. And before, I would have spent 30 minutes to an hour setting up fence and putting posts in, uh, to get those sheep from one area to the next. I'm also banking on those sheep being hungry enough to move from the paddock they're in to the next paddock. And today it would have worked, because we're eating through what little grass we have left, because we haven't had rain, and forecast the next 10 days says we're not going to get any more. Um, but yeah, it's just identifying those opportunities, to help that dog learn, and really to help you learn. I know we've got our ram lambs out on pasture, and you talk about a group of sheep that don't know what a dog is, and
Yep.
would not wish on my worst enemy to try to move with with the dog. We're slowly teaching those animals what a herding dog is.
Yep.
And but it's very interesting, that group versus the ewes. As soon as they see that black and white dog, they say, okay, shoop,
Yep.
let's let's
Yep.
bunch up in a ball. And where's Cameron at? Because that's where we're supposed to be going more often than not. So,
Yeah. We're in the same boat. Um, One of the issues is, you like to be able to send the dog on an outrun, um, to gather, to bring those sheep to you. We're only 160 feet wide by right now 150. And
mm,
on the main flock, it's not a very big area. So it's a little hard to send that dog on much of an outrun. And all we're kind of doing as far as working the dog every day with the sheep is just trying to send him out around and bring those sheep to me, and then be able to walk alongside that group and drive those sheep from one end to the other. Then we get into the ram flock. It's 160 feet by 50 feet. So
mm,
there's not much, there's not a lot of room there for moving sheep. But when I talked to my trainer, oh, I don't know, a month or so ago. It was probably a month after the first handlers event that I went to. Uh, I had said that I kind of had identified three groups of sheep, and all three groups were different. And the one was the ewe flock was scared to death of the dog, and I was afraid I was going to run through the fence because they just had this fear look of terror in their eyes.
mm,
They've calmed down a lot, quite a bit, and they're easily moved by the dog. Not necessarily the correct direction, but we can move them pretty easy. Then there were ewes with lambs, where all they wanted to do was kill the dog, and the dog. I literally had ewes try to go through me to get to the dog, where I had to kind of stop and defend the dog so the ewes didn't get him. And then I had lambs who, when I brought the dog in that paddock with those lambs, they all circled the dog. The poor dog's sitting in the middle, and every lamb is all around it, trying to sniff it, wondering what is this thing. And they were crazy curious. And the poor dog, who's not that well trained by any stretch of imagination, can't figure out how I'm supposed to move these lambs, because they don't realize there's the dog. They're supposed to be afraid of the dog. So I had those three
right.
distinct groups, and when I called him, he said, "Oh, that's good. That's good that you're able to see those different groups, and now you'll have to figure out how to use the dog to move those groups." So our ram lambs are just now starting to kind of move with the dog. The dog has to get a little aggressive on them to move them. Nothing, nothing major kind of a thing, but he was kind of snapping at him last night, and suddenly they were starting to pay more attention. And
Mm,
uh, and my dog in the past has had a very bad grip problem. And those who don't know, grip is biting. He was not drawing blood, but he was being way more aggressive than he should have been. And it was kind of good to see that he was willing to snap at them without actually trying to attack them. But he was kind of using that to get them to move, and they were starting to go. So in like a week and a half, we're going to leave the pasture that we're in, or we will be in, and then we're going to move down. I guess it's two more pastures to the third pasture down. Um, and we're not going to set any fence up. We're going to try to do it with just the dog. And I'm not afraid of the sheep running away. That's not what will happen at all, but there will be new grass there. And I know in the past, just trying to chase those sheep, if you didn't have that fence up and you didn't have it narrow, they would just spread out and you'd never be able to move them. They just, you move one, 5 feet and go to the next one. And meanwhile, the one you just moved, put his head down is eaten again. So, because that's what they're used to. They're moving. We go to the new grass and we're all in good shape. So
yeah.
CJ and I have discussed this. We said, okay, this is going to be the trial. We're going to try it. And if worst comes to worst, we'll have to go to like the middle of the pasture or something and stretch a fence up real quick so we get a little better handle on them. But we think it's going to work. It's going to be kind of exciting, kind of nerve wracking. But I'll tell you, the last 4 times that we've caught sheep, it went so much faster. I mean, so much faster using the dog. Now he was
Then
still,
having to walk, then you walking back and forth trying trying to push a
well,
group up.
yeah, we were trying to chase them into, we have all these panels that we set up, and then we try to chase them into that panel where we're basically making a corral, and then we try to narrow that up so we can divide it up and just work sheep in like groups of 10. And it's half our time is spent trying to get those sheep caught to where we can work with them. And the last ones we did, we had about 130 ewes, and when we chased them into when we used the dog, got them in, uh, and tried to close the panel behind them, they all bunched up to one side and pushed everything over, and then escaped. And anybody who's ever worked animals knows that once you do this the second time, it's almost impossible to get them in because now they know what you're doing. And I thought, holy crud, this isn't gonna work. We're gonna have to put this off for a few days and do it again. And no, we got the dog and we just decided we're gonna take half the flock in there. And then the other half we had set some net up and we are just gonna hold them in that net. And it went every bit as easy the second time as it was the first time. And at that point, I was like, "Yep, I'm convinced we're never going to be without border collie again." Because I was amazed that we could control them enough to get them to go in there. And it wasn't CJ or I doing all the running around. I don't run. I waddle. But
Great.
that's and there's no lie to that. I'm scared to death to run. I think my knees would blow out if I tried to run, if not my heart.
Well, I will tell you, if Lane saw you out there, my oldest daughter, we were moving some sheep the other day. She was helping me, and she felt the need to warn me. She said, "If you see cow tracks, don't run." And I said, "Oh, that must mean there's cows nearby." She said, "No, you'll break your leg." And so I'm assuming she had caught a foot into a hoof print
Yeah,
um, when the cows were out there and fell down, and I was just trying to contain myself from laughing
yeah.
because I was like, you know what? That is pretty good advice.
Sound
Like,
advice. We worry about
So,
groundhog holes. Holy smoly!
oh yeah, you'll lose a leg there too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I've
Does
been
the
setting, I've been setting
does
fence.
Gretchen
What's
take
that?
care of them? Does Gretchen take care of them?
The groundhogs? I think
Yeah.
more than once I've seen her out there eating the groundhog.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that was that was pretty good. The fact I started thinking maybe I should be shooting groundhogs and feed her, I could be saving money on dog food.
Isn't that the truth? My
Yeah,
goodness, I've got a couple of guard dog puppies now, and I'm not gonna inform the public how many bags of Purina puppy chow. Like this is not top of the line stuff that we're pumping into these guard dogs,
no,
but they'll eat and they are growing like weeds. It's kind of fun to see. They're learning the ropes. I know we've got Big Don out there protecting the main flock, and got the puppies in with some smaller groups of sheep. But yeah, they will eat some food, and it adds up pretty quick.
it does. It absolutely does. The Gretchen, our livestock guardian dog, she was doing a lot of hunting and she was not eating a lot of dog food. And this year has been a strange year. Like I told you, we don't have much for legumes growing at all. And there isn't a lot of, I guess, moles, bowls, whatever this dog's been eating out there. Because all of a sudden now she is just hammering through the dog food.
Oh no.
And before it was like you'd go several days and the dog wasn't eating at all out there, the dog food. But the dog wasn't hungry and we'd catch her, jumping into tall grass and coming up with these mice and stuff. And she was pretty happy to eat all that. But now we're just not seeing many of those critters running about. But and Gretchen and Chase together kind of reminds me of the old adage, if you've got one boy helping you, you've got half a man. If you've got two boys helping you, you have no men.
Nice. Nice. All they want to do is play.
Well, Chase wants to work, but Gretch thinks this is great fun. Let's just play. And Gretch is so much bigger than Chase that when Gretch runs Chase down, Chase just lays down and submits, and
Yep.
Gretch just stands over top of her, wagging her tail, and basically saying, go again, so I can catch you." And as soon as Chase sees an opening, then Chase sneaks off to back to doing the job he was supposed to be doing, and Gretch just comes running right along. And we'll get the sheep all grouped up nice, and then Gretch just plows right up through the middle of them, and they just scatter.
Of course.
And they're all like, "Here
Of
comes that
course.
monkey dog again." So when we go to do this, CJ tries to hang on to Gretchen, which is not the easiest thing to do, but and Gretchen has figured out we run Gretchen's collar really loose so that if she gets it caught on something, she's able to pull it off. And you really got to watch hanging on to her because she will just slip that collar super fast. And that so she can be a royal pain when you're trying to train a dog. So I would definitely say if you're trying to train a dog, you probably need to do something with your livestock guardian dog in the process. It
Yeah,
is,
we try to collar ours and uh, tie them up somewhere, and then you can move sheep move sheep with the dog just fine. But
yeah,
yeah, it's always kind of fun to see those canine interactions of two classes of working dog that have very different responsibilities.
yep,
Hopefully, both are very good at each of their independent responsibilities, but they the way they interact is very unique, and I always thought it would be an issue, and it has not been. And like you said, they know they're each there to do a specific job. It does take some acclimation between both of those individuals, but once they know who each other is, they seem to be fine.
yeah. I've
So
heard a
yeah,
lot of people
it's been
say
fun
that.
to watch that.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that the livestock guardian dog will eventually just move along just like the sheep do. It'll just be part of that flock. But Gretch is, I don't know, 2.5 years old now, and she's still got a lot of puppy in her. You know,
Yeah.
she bounces around. She drives CJ crazy because she likes to jump up on him. She won't jump up on me, but he'll be walking along and she'll just fly past him and jump up and just about knocks him over every time. Then he turns around, and yells at her, and she
Yeah.
just jumps back and wags her tail. She thinks this is a great game.
Yeah. I'm sure he loves that.
Oh
It sounds
yeah,
like something I also would not would not enjoy, but
every
I
day,
know we've
every day those
yeah,
are into it. You know,
that's too funny. That is
he's
too
mad, and
funny.
he's mad, and she's playing. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds like it was a good event down in Zanesville, and
Yep.
pulled some tools out to help you on that herding journey. I think it's something regardless of whether it's, herding dogs specifically or raising sheep, going and seeking out some of that professional development and educating yourself is huge. And we've talked about that on here. It's one of the reasons why we promote a lot of these extension events or conference type events when we know about them.
Yeah. Well,
Perfect.
it sounds like that was a good event down there, then, Cam. So we both had some good trips under our belt here recently. So we're gonna have another event here September 10th, I believe it is, uh, for Pamancha training here in conjunction with Penn State. So we're kind of excited for that. If you look on our social media there, you can sign up for that if you're in the area. And I'm surprised how many people have been getting a hold of me that aren't that far away from here. They've been listening to the podcast, so that's pretty cool. So it's we thank you for listening to another episode of the Grazing Sheep podcast. If you want to reach out to me, you can do so at bigtomperkins@gmail.com. There's a Facebook page. I uploaded a bunch more videos there to the YouTube channel. You can go check that out. It's basically the same exact content. You just get to watch us talk about this stuff instead of just listening. So don't know if that floats your boat or not, but if it does, there it is. So it's been good catching up with you, Cam, and we'll talk to you next week.
Sounds great.
All
Have a
right.
good one, Tom.
All righty. Bye.